STRATEEGERY. Let's open the black book. Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's me, Joey P, Joe Pizzapia, and welcome to another glorious edition of the Fantasy Black Book. Black. I want to paint it black right here on the In This League Podcast Network. Woo! Welsh is excited today. That's the Welsh. That's me, Scott Bogman. And it's you, and we're here on video and on podcast format for you. We got a great show as always for you every single week. We bring the heat. That's what we do. So if you can't stand the heat, then get out of the kitchen. I mean, it seems like it might be hot in the whole house, not just the kitchen, but I don't understand that expression. Whatever.
If it's too hot in the kitchen, leave the house.
Yeah, leave the house.
If the house is on fire, call the fire department. I think those are all sayings, right?
It's always hot. Like you're in Arizona, both of you. Isn't it just hot everywhere? You just leave Arizona if it's too hot.
Every single day. I'm leaving this weekend. I'm going to go up. Hey, I'm not going to go camping like someone who's about to come on with us, but I am going to go up north.
Oh, up north. Like Jon Snow?
Yeah.
You're going to get your wolf and you're going to go up north?
It's going to go beyond the wall.
Yeah. You know what the problem is like
a redheaded girl?
Getting away and going up north in Arizona is like, hey, I'm going to leave 110 and I'm going to go down to a cool brisk 90. That's what I'm going to do. Go up to the woods and 90 degrees.
Well, that's a good question, actually, though. Have you ever been, beyond the wall with a nice redheaded gal?
No, I haven't really been much of anywhere. I don't know much. I know nothing, but I haven't been with a redhead. So.
These are the important questions that we ask here on the Black Book. And we're going to ask important questions of our guests, too, today, because we've got Nate Hamilton joining us of the Dominate Fantasy Football Podcast and, of course, his contributions to the Black Book. We're going to talk about some wide receiver props, and we've got some fun stuff for at the end of the show you're not going to want to miss, so definitely stick around for that. And if you are new to us, please subscribe to the podcast over here as part of the In This League Podcast Network. We are on Google, we're on Stitcher, we're on iHeart, we're on Apple, we're on I'm exhausted, we're there. Don't even ask, we're just there, just do it. And of course, now we're on video as well. So go to the In This League YouTube page on that channel, subscribe, just click the little thing, bada boom, bada bing. Next thing you know, every time you get our beautiful faces once a week that pop up, there's sometimes twice a week as we get sports back. But let's bring on our guest. As I said before, he is one of our favorite people here on the show. We always have a good time. And he is not camping. At least I don't think so. It seems as though he is in his house again. He's the one, the only Nate Hamilton. Nate, it's so nice of you to join us indoors today.
Thank you, guys. Yes, it is. It's actually nice to be indoors because it actually has been hot. I joke all the time because I live in New Hampshire, and I joke that I live in the North Pole, but it actually has been in the 90s all week. So it was nice camping. I love making fires at night, but what 90-degree day, it wasn't like a welcoming fire to be around. So I'm happy to be inside.
Nice to see you, Nate. We'll never see you on the In This League Fantasy Football Podcast because you're not invited ever again because all you do is cancel on us. So it is nice to see you here. It's nice to have one time a week and talk with you where you don't give an excuse where you can't come on because,
why are you always camping, Nate? It's a question we have to know.
We have literally DM'd Nate up 5 times. 5 times, and Nate has been like, oh, yeah, sorry, guys, I'm just super busy.
I hit up Nate, and I said, I think this was for the radio show last year. I was just looking for someone to do an hour with me for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row. And he was like, I'm sorry, I'm camping every single Thursday for the next month. And I just like, there's no way. I assume that you're camping right now, and this is just the memorabilia and radio stuff you take with you while you're camping.
It's like Jeff Passan. You know how Jeff Passan just has that like thing in the background he shared that it's not a real thing. It's just a screen that comes down. Like, yeah, you're in the middle of the woods, and that's just your background. I like that.
I promise you guys, if I was camping, you would not be able to hear me right now. I'm sure. Like, I have no service when I'm up there. So, this is the real deal. I'm actually here, and I just love canceling on you guys. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. I know. Well, that's why we've stopped.
Well, here's the thing: you get 2 times to do it ever, and that's it. Well, I hope you enjoyed your rush.
I did.
That's good.
Well, I will say this: one great thing came of the camping, though, because I saw the post that you had of the s'more with the Reese's peanut butter cup in the middle, and I thought to myself, now that sounds like something to try. So I also just recently
tried to get you on the show, Nate, is because we respect your opinion. Anyone who's putting a Reese's peanut butter cup inside a s'more knows what they're doing.
Thank you.
This is why we try to get you on the show, but you're always camping and making peanut butter.
Well, float me another invite. I'm pretty available now.
Yeah, we'll do.
I haven't said no to so many people lately, so I kind of need that.
Oh God, but here's what I just want to put this out there. I don't know if you guys have tried this yet or seen this. I just saw it recently. I think it's a new thing for this year. They have a marshmallow that has chocolate already inside of it.
Oh,
so let me tell you something, boys. This is I'm telling you all, you just eat them right out. If it doesn't matter, they're delicious. And you think, oh, the chocolate's gonna be weird, right? It's gonna be like that weird processed, bizarre chocolate. No, it's actually pretty good. And I'm telling you right now, I just bought 3 bags of them for July 4th. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be me by the pool, just roasting marshmallows with the chocolate already inside them. And that's it, just going to hell because you don't have any baseball to talk about right now, but we have football. And Nate is one of the contributors of the Black Book, and Nate and I always do the draft strategy chapter. So let's kick things off here and dig in a little bit. It's always fun to do that with Nate because Nate and I try to focus in the Black Book about core building and how to build roster strength, understanding how to do that. So instead of doing some, mock where all these people and all this stuff, the two of us just get together for 4 rounds and we go back and forth and we really kind of dig into that and trying to figure out how we can show you what's the best way to approach some roster core building early on. And as you're doing that, I'm curious, what are the 2 player pools look like to you this year in standard and in PPR? Like, do you have an idea when you looked at it and you say, like you step back a little bit from that, 5,000 feet and you say, okay, after doing all of this and after looking at PPR and standard leagues, is there one format that you think is in a better position this year or not? Or is it they're kind of equal, or what's the approach for it? Like, what is the big takeaway for you basically when you look at these 2 specific formats going into 2020?
Well, I think just the way the NFL has played out the last few years, it definitely favors PPR. And that's why you hear everybody in PPR format now, and that standard shouldn't be called standard anymore. It should just be called non-PPR, which if you look on a couple resources, a couple sites, it does actually list it as non-PPR. So I think coming into this year, it definitely benefits PPR players just because that's just, again, it's the nature of the direction the league is moving in. It's a pass happy league, and running backs don't matter, right? That's what everyone says. It drives me nuts, but it's starting to lean that way just a little bit for me.
Well, speaking of zero running back strategy, that's I'm always incredibly fascinated with it every year. If people ever listen to the In This League Fantasy Football podcast, they hear us making fun of the idea of like, don't draft a running back, want. Well, there are strategies around it. So I'm curious, you did say it just drives you nuts. So I probably know the answer to it, but talk to me about, I'm
He's
guessing
camping.
I'm guessing you don't advocate for the zero running back strategy, but what do you think the zero running back strategy looks like this year and why you wouldn't advocate for it?
What was the name of that podcast you just mentioned again?
Dominate Anthem podcast.
It was something like In This League or something.
Yeah. Don't worry, it's not a big deal. It's
okay. So I am a zero wide receiver guy. That is just that's how I've always done it. Anytime I've ever waited to draft on running backs, I always look back and I just feel like the foundation of my team is missing. I feel like there are fewer running backs that I'd be happy with on my team than there are an array of wide receivers. So for me, it always matters on the roster construction of a league. So if you have to start 4 wide receivers and only 2 running backs, then that might shift my strategy a little bit to lean heavily on wide receivers. But let's just call it just your normal, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, even 3. I tend to go running back early because I'm much happier with getting early running backs. And there are so many later round wide receivers that I can get in the 5th round, 6th round, 7th round that I'm much happy to pair with my early round running back. So I'm not a zero RB guy. I'll never be.
Yeah, and
I don't care what the league does.
And I agree with that. I'm with that. A little bit later, actually, I want to do a little construction similar to what you guys do in the Black Book. And I did it with Joe in the baseball version. It's something I actually really enjoy, and I think it's very helpful to look at that type of construction. So we'll do that here in just a tiny bit. But as far as those zero running backs go, let's just for a minute, because you're tied into it. And there's definitely you're kind of tied into that sect of Twitter that's very active in conversation, hot takes, and all that type of stuff. Who are, just real quick, if you could give people, because I know one, I'll just throw out one.
Sure.
If the people are constructing the zero running back strategy, which I think the majority of us here do not agree with, Raheem Mostert is like the poster child to me for everybody's advocation for zero running backs. Who do you think are a couple of the zero running back guys? If you don't get let's say you're not getting a running back in the first 4 rounds, that's probably what that looks like. Who are a couple of the zero running back draftees?
So for me, right off the top, one guy that's always disrespected in the industry every year is Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard's one of those guys you can get super late right now. And, he started his first 3 seasons with 1,000+ all-purpose yards in every season. He's always, needed volume. And he's now coming off a season where he had a bum shoulder toward the end of the season. He was under Doug, the fantasy running back Reaper Peterson. So he can get away from that now. And, now I think he finds himself in a situation in Miami where he's going to get the volume that he's accustomed to, and where he provides that, fantasy value for you. So Jordan Howard for me is one of those guys. And you said somebody after the 4th round. This is somebody kind of hovering around the 4th round right now, and I think is being forgotten about is Mark Ingram. He's another one. He was, the RB8 in standard leagues last year, and he's not heavily involved in, the passing game. But he had over 200 carries and over 1,000 yards last season. So he's currently going as the RB20 in leagues, or in early drafts. So for me, those 2 guys, as far as a running back goes for late round, I'm targeting them everywhere.
My question for you, Nate, is a simple: pick your poison. Is Bass Pro Shops or REI better if I'm going to go camping this weekend? No. Just kidding.
Let's get to the heart of what this is about.
No, QBs, Nate. I think the strategy for a couple seasons has been wait till the very, very end of the draft to take a QB, because there's going to be a good one left, unless you're super flex 2 QB league, something like that. But in your standard leagues, are you investing early? Because a lot of people seem to like the Mahomes and Lamar Jackson side this year. And then there's a couple guys before the end of the draft that I feel like I'm kind of more swimming in those seas before the very, very end of the draft this season, because it seems like there's like 2 big tiers and then a giant tier of quarterbacks. So if I can get one in that second tier instead of the last tier, I feel like I'm a little ahead of the game this season.
That's usually where I shop. Like, who are the first 2 that are going, the first 2-3 rounds? No, I'm never going to do that. I want to get at least.
They're like the Yeti. They're too expensive.
Exactly.
You don't want them at all.
That's right. No, you don't want the Yeti. That's exactly. I actually have a couple Yetis, but I won them as a prize. So, but no, for me, honestly, I shop in that mid tier because I still want quality. He's got one. I still want quality
placement. There you go.
I still want quality production out of my quarterback, but I'm not paying that price, because we've seen it over and over again. After a quarterback does unbelievable and he goes, at the back end of the first or early second, and then he just kind of falls to, the QB9, QB10 that year, and you just wasted that draft pick, in my opinion, because the fantasy points that separate the guys in the second tier aren't far off from each other. So as long as you can grab one of those guys, probably in the middle rounds.
Is there a specific one that you like keep taking in mocks or anything?
Matt Ryan. I always get Matt Ryan. Like, he's just,
everybody loves him. I love Matt Ryan too. He's one of my super flex guys. Well, they throw more than anybody else, for God's sakes,
Exactly. And that's what matters, right? So
I'm the only one that doesn't like Matt Ryan. And it's just for the season. And I'll tell you why. It's because they added Todd Gurley, and over the last couple seasons, even with half a knee, he's still this goal line monster. He just takes a lot of those, and they lost one of their big red zone targets in Austin Hooper. I know a lot of people in on Hayden Hurst. I'm just not there yet. So I've ticked Matt Ryan a little bit lower in my rankings, but people like to take him after Lamar and Mahomes sometimes, and he's just not in that range for me.
No, not for me. I mean, if he's going into that second tier, like you were talking about, like later, probably 6th, 7th round, then I'll go for him there. But a guy I actually like in the later rounds, believe it or not, is going to surprise you. It's Baker Mayfield. Right now,
that's not surprising to me.
He's going in the coach. Exactly. New coach. He's going in the 9th round right now in drafts. It's going to be his 3rd season, but it's 2nd year with guys like Odell Beckham Jr. and a pass catcher in Kareem Hunt, which you guys all know how much I love Kareem Hunt. So for me, and speaking of Austin Hooper, he has Austin Hooper now. I don't love Austin Hooper for fantasy this season, but it's just another weapon for Baker Mayfield to have. So I want to see what he can do in a full season, and I am going to put a lot of weight behind Kareem Hunt, because Kareem Hunt, when he's on the field, he's a dangerous pass catcher, but he's also an unbelievable blocker. He protects Baker Mayfield. Like every clip I see when he's in there, if he's not involved, he's blocking. He's providing value for every other player on the field. So I think that's really going to benefit Baker this year. And I think we're going to see the Browns be what everyone thought they were going to be last year. And I know everyone's like, yeah, we've all said that before. But I mean, you know what? Take a breath, relax. Sometimes
it's got to happen sometime.
It takes time to develop. And I think this is the year for the Browns.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. You have so many weapons there. I mean, a guy like Kareem Hunt can really help you pad those passing stats to you. And I just think Freddie Kitchens was not ready to be a head coach in the NFL. That was just glaringly obvious from pretty much the jump of last season. And my favorite scenario played out, and we talked about on the show last year of how, wouldn't it be fun if they just got just awful? Like they were just terrible and all this hype and all this stuff and everything just imploded. I was like, oh, those press conferences are going to be so great. And they were really entertaining. Yeah. I enjoyed it. Talking about some of those, the zero wide receivers. So when you're getting later into drafts, I know you were talking about going after some of those guys. So who are some of those PPR darlings for you that you're targeting in those later rounds? So you're taking all your running backs, you're getting that position in there. And then when you're looking for some of these wide receivers, who are some guys that because of the PPR format, maybe don't score a ton of touchdowns or a ton of upside there, but in terms of consistent points that you're looking, they basically are good ROIs for you, Nate.
Okay, I'll go with the first one. It's not going super late. He's the late fourth round, but it's the wide receiver 17, and it's Robert Woods. He was 8th in targets and receptions last year. Now he doesn't have.
And they have no run game.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They don't have no run game. Yeah.
So Gurley and Cooks are leaving behind 121 targets from last year. Obviously, he's not going to eat all those up, but it's just proof that his target share shouldn't be going down in 2020. So I'm really liking Robert Woods, but that's more of a mid-tier guy. Some late round guy I like is Devante Parker. I know Preston Williams is going to be healthy again. He's coming back, but Devante Parker got over 1,200 yards last year and 9 touchdowns with just 72 receptions. So, we're talking about PPR versus non-PPR. I like him more in standard leagues than I do in PPR leagues. But for me, I think he could be Tua's, main target just because he's a beast. He's a late bloomer for me. A lot of people, most had given up on him prior to last season. But right now, he's going in the 7th round. He's the wide receiver 31 off boards. So I really like Devante Parker in 2020.
So Joe says targets. What about, how do I want to say this? The players that you would label as the most underrated. It's like a common article we see everywhere. Everyone's like the most underrated, blah, blah, blah. So if we're looking at PPR, give me a couple names. And I think we're talking like further down, the really, really, really most underrated PPR options. Just a couple you think for this coming season.
All right. You guys are going to laugh at me for this one.
You say Devin Funchess, I'm taking you off the.
Yeah, we're just going to say thanks so much, everybody. Enjoy day.
Devin Funchess.
You guys look at my
there he goes. It was nice to have
follow him on Twitter at DominateFF.
No.
We enjoy his work.
Hey, listen, this was no joke.
He's camping actually for the rest of the week, so you can't hit him up on Twitter. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nate.
No, honestly, the last time I talked this guy up, obviously, I didn't expect Andrew Luck to retire. Okay. So, I mean, that obviously threw my whole argument for him out the window. But Devin Funchess, man, 6'4", 236 pounds. The guy is a beast, and he's going to be catching passes from Aaron Rodgers, who last year everybody had high hopes for. Is it MVS? Is it Geronimo Allison? Who's it going to be? Well, you know what?
None of them.
Aaron Rodgers hates young wide receivers. He hates newbies. And Devin Funchess, although he is young, he's not a newbie in the league. So he has the talent, and he could be the second most targeted guy in that offense.
He runs routes like he retired 3 years ago.
You know what? That's fine. And he can still catch passes. It's fine. No, it's fine. He drops balls. We were hoping this would happen. I mean, the truth is
what we always live for.
He's a perfect 50-50 ball guy, and we know Aaron Rodgers, I mean, that's one of his favorite things to do is throw that 50-50 ball up there. So for me, I think Devin Funchess I think not so much target volume, and I know you asked for PPR, but in all formats, if you're catching touchdowns in fantasy football, that's what matters at the end of the day. They're scoring points for your fantasy team. And guess what? Devin Funchess, just like I said before, if he doesn't work out for you, you got him for free. You got him at the end of the draft. It doesn't matter, but the payoff is there. The payoff could happen now that he has Aaron Rodgers thrown to him in a more potent offense that he was in.
But this is it,
year.
right, Nate? Like, if he doesn't make it this year, you can't back him anymore.
I'm with you for sure.
Right. Yeah. Well, aren't you like 6'4", 222? Like, is that why Nate likes you so much?
I was 220. 6'4". I was 220 like in high school. Like I was playing football. I was a perfect 6'3", 200 when I was playing football in high school. I'm still about 6'4", but
hey, what should I say? I'm 5'8", 195.
But so 220 is closer to a 3, so let's not go all there.
Are we giving away heights and stuff? Like I'm 159 and 5'9".
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, you lost a lot of weight though recently.
I did. I lost about 19 pounds. I lost the COVID.
Well, that's what happens when you're living off the land.
Yeah.
When you gotta farm your own crops and stuff.
Pretty amazing.
Was Nate on your Oregon Trail special and in this league?
No.
I had dysentery.
He would have been perfect. By the way, fun fact: only one person over 5'10" on this podcast right now, and he's talking. It's amazing. It's
Congrats!
Who's the shortest here? Is that you, Bogman? Or Joe?
I think Joe might be shorter than me. We have to stand like toe to toe to see. I mean, I outweigh Joe probably by close to 100 pounds, but I might be as short as him.
So 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", and
God. Yeah, there you go. Look at the gun show.
That's right. 2 tickets right here. That's what I got for you.
Nate. I mean, I was going to ask you about Devin Funchess later, so I guess I have to change my question now. But what about tight ends? It feels like once again because this year that middle tier of wide receivers is so unbelievably deep that you might want to go tight end in the second round if a Kelsey, Ertz, Kittle, one of those guys falls to you, or take one early like a Mark Andrews. Someone just a little bit earlier this year because you can wait so long on wideouts. What is your strategy with tight ends in 2020?
Tight ends, I always end up punting the position. Like it's one of those things. I really stack up on wide receivers, running backs, try to get my quarterback in that mid tier as we talked about. But then for me, I would rather take a shot on a couple late round tight ends. And
who are those guys?
Hope one of them pan out. One of them is actually Jack Doyle. So Jack Doyle, everybody's forgotten about him. I think that he no longer has Eric Ebron to steal or vulture touchdowns from him. He'll not be catching from Jacoby Brissett anymore. He's got Phillip Rivers throwing to him, which historically we know he throws to his pass catching running backs, but more importantly, he catches passes or throws passes to the tight end.
And he'll get longer than one Mississippi from the offensive line this year.
Exactly.
Well, I think it was Tagliere who told me when I was on air with him last week. He said something about that Phillip Rivers has always had a tight end one every single year except one, I think. Is that accurate? I want to say it was basically that like he's always created. Now, granted, most of those years were Gates, but the one year was Hunter Henry, and then there was somebody else who like just finished outside of one year. One of the Greens, Virgil or some Green.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that sounds about right. But the truth is, like, and everyone says, "Oh yeah," I mean, but whenever I bring up Jack Doyle, it's the argument that, well, Phillip Rivers has always had like a Hall of Famer tight end to throw to, and it's just like, well, I mean, was that the tight end or was that Phillip Rivers?
Chicken or the egg?
Right, yeah. Right, exactly. So for me, Jack Doyle is somebody who has proven that he can handle the volume. He had the second most receptions in 2017. And again, we're talking about catching passes from Jacoby Brissett. So I just think that Jack Doyle to me is one of those guys that just come back from the dead out of nowhere this season. And again, he'll cost you nothing. You can get him for free at the end of drafts.
All right. One more for you, Nate, before we let you go. Todd Gurley, I've seen go anywhere from second round all the way to fourth round. Like, it's one of the bigger variances I've seen draft to draft so far. And, I know you and I were very careful. We actually had him, I think, right in the middle. I think we had him in the third round where we were like, this kind of makes sense. Like, I'll take a shot on him as my number 2. And you and I kind of talked about it. You're more apt to do that if you have a Saquon or CMC. You and I both kind of like doing it around the third round early turn, because chances are you've already solidified at least one really big time star running back that you can count on. And then you have a little risk there with Gurley, but you could back it up later in the draft right away. Is that where you still are now? Because I know we're like a month out from press. I'm still there. I'm still looking at, how little he caught the ball last year and how much Devonta Freeman caught the ball in this offense. I'm looking at a guy in a 1-year deal who's got something to prove, and I always love those kind of guys. So I'm still very much in that early third round's a perfect time to go take a shot there. How about you? Are you still in that same spot with Gurley going into 2020?
I mean, you basically summed it all up. I mean, that's exactly where
Well, it was nice having you on the show, Nate.
I know. Thank you so much. Thanks for talking about me.
Enjoy the woods.
Well, tell me, you know what? Give me another spin. Why? Like, what else is for you that, where do you see why aren't people willing to take that risk, in your opinion? They're just so afraid of the knee, or are they just so afraid of the usage?
So afraid of the knee. Everything was so brought up about his knee, and obviously the performance tying into it worried a lot of people toward the end. But the truth is, if we're looking at trending, the Los Angeles Rams offense was just going in a bad direction, and they didn't want to involve Gurley anymore. So that, to me, it was just a bad situation for Gurley. Now he finds himself in a high potent offense that's trending in a better direction than what we saw last year from the Rams. And he is a pass catching back. He can also, he's 3 down back. He can be involved in every facet of the game. But the truth is, and Joe, you and I talked about this before, even if there is an issue with the knee and they want to preserve, his health, then the coaching staff in Atlanta is smart enough to know to utilize Gurley in the right situations. So for me, and that's why, Bogman doesn't like Matt Ryan so much, because Gurley is great on the goal line and he's probably going to be punching in a ton of those touchdowns this year. So I think Todd Gurley is in for a bounce back season, even though he wasn't awful last year. It's just everyone's expecting him to be a top 2 running back. He's not that anymore, but he's worth the higher pick.
It's interesting with Gurley too, because his knee has become bigger than his number 1 fantasy overall performance. And it's like the legacy. And right now the legacy is his foot and his, injury at his age. So it's kind of followed him in a bad track. Maybe he'll show up in this. So, we're talking about strategy overall. And I know you guys kind of did this in the Black Book, and here we go. Let's just get right at it. Let's see if you can do it. I'm going to give you a spot, Nate, and I want you to give me your perfect scenario. So you've done enough mocks and you did this work in the Fantasy Black Book that you're going to be able to navigate this properly with, the relative players that are going to be in the range. So I'm going to give you, which I think is a really difficult spot in this year's draft, pick 9. I want you to give me your 4 picks. So you've got 9. Let's say this is a 12-man PPR. Okay. So you've got 9 and like whatever the hell that is, like 16, 15, and then you're going to come back around through, which would be 30, and I can't do any math right now. So you get the deal. So give me a perfect scenario at pick 9, what Nate Hamilton is doing.
So for me, I love a pick toward the end of the draft, or the end of, a later round pick. So this kind of falls just before that for me. So it's very tricky. But I could see myself. So you want like 4 picks at the 9th?
I want for the first 4 round picks based on that spot, and the players that nothing crazy, but what you think will be there.
Well, I think for me, I'm still starting with 2 running backs. So I'm thinking at either Alvin Kamara or Derrick Henry. Follow it up with Kenyon Drake with my next pick.
Okay, we're going to give you Henry because Kamara's not going to fall in a PPR to 9. So we'll give you Henry and we'll give you Drake. So
all right, sounds good. Picks. So Derrick Henry,
very Black Book already.
I mean, you and I did the mocks, Joe.
I know,
so, I mean,
but that's why I do it with you, because
right?
we see it the same. Well, but we see things the same way, different enough, but
Yeah.
similar enough in terms of theme. And I think you're right. I mean, you're just talking to guys that I don't think have any challenge for their jobs. Like that's it.
And the guys that I mentioned, obviously Derrick Henry. If I end up with him, he's not a PPR monster, but he's still a scoring monster, and that's. Again, it doesn't matter what format. Kenyon Drake could also be a PPR monster here. But then I'll finish it off with either Adam Thielen, Juju Smith-Schuster, and then the 4th
Calvin
round.
Ridley.
Yeah.
4th round, can we do that?
We'll give you Juju and say he gets there to you in the 3rd. So you've got Derrick Henry, Kenyon Drake, Juju Smith-Schuster, and now your 4th round pick.
Robert Woods or Cooper Kupp. Whoever.
There you go. Or Cooper Kupp. There
I like
you go.
it.
There it is. All right. So everybody, make sure you check out Nate's great work in the Black Book in the draft strategy chapter. Again, we break things down for you in the Black Book on Amazon about how to, target each different player pool, why you should do this in standard this year. And again, this specific year, it's not always the thing. It changes every year depending on what the player pool looks like. And that's something people have to understand. If it's super flex, if it's PPR, if it's best ball, we've got every single chapter there for you. And chances are you're playing in all those different formats, which means that, you can't just have generic values. You have to have much better targeted specific strategies. And Nate, I am very appreciative as always to have you as part of the Black Book. You can follow Nate and check out his podcast too, Dominate Fantasy Football, and follow him on Twitter at, again, Dominate, Nate, FF. The FF stands for freaking Funches. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some wide receiver props right here on the Black Book.
Bye, Nate.
Awesome.
Bye,
Thanks,
Nate.
Guys.
See you,
Nate. We love you.
All right. Love you guys.
See you, buddy.
Light a fire.
Later.
Make it more for me.
All
right, here we go. Round 2, wide receiver props in 3, 2. Welcome back, everybody. Fantasy Black Book. Great stuff, as always, from our boy, Nate Hamilton. We always like having him on the show. It's one of the always, more comical thing. You could tell when we really like people because we give them hard times and we like to, fuss around. And I can't believe you guys went on the Oregon Trail without him in that. I know I was part of that caravan.
We go on everything without him, Joe, because we have
won't come.
Yeah, I mean,
he's always camping.
Flip that for Bogman. He won't come.
By the way, this is why you joined the ITL Army. Can I just tell everybody? Because you sent me the link for that. They did. Bogman and Welsh did an Oregon Trail special where some of us were on the thing. And it is, this is what you join up on the ITL Patreon page and check this out because, everyone's looking for something to watch. And I'm telling you, it was like an hour long. It was. I was like in tears at certain times. Like it was so funny.
Yeah, we have three. We have 3 of them actually. Yours was
so funny.
You were on the first one, and it was.
That's the only one I care about.
In my eyes, it was the best though because the ending was so magical. But
the last one was pretty good too.
Yeah, the last one was good. Bogman got to be the leader of the Oregon Trail. Yeah, it's all stuff that's available on our Patreon. It was fun stuff.
But I had me, the Welsh, and 3 porn stars.
I want to do this. Like I want to be a part. Like I know that Oregon Trail again. Like we should find another game or something to play and do this together because I'm game, man. We got time on our hands finally.
It's hard to find time right now, but it's we want to play Dungeons and Dragons because we've never done.
I've never played Dungeons and Dragons in my whole life. I want to play.
I want to. I'm done. I'm done with it because here's the deal. Here's the problem of why this will never happen.
Everyone's doing it.
Yeah. We came up with this. Not that we're original, but we came up with this podcast idea. A couple idiots who've never played Dungeons and Dragons. We came up with it over a year ago, but we got complacent and didn't do anything with it. And then, Pardon My Take did it like 2 months ago. And we would just look like we're stealing. So
I got an idea. Can we do this? Can we do a Dungeons and Dragons, but instead, can we make it about Major League Baseball and the commissioner and the MLBPA?
Here's the problem. Pitcherless did the same thing. So we were talking with Nick, and they ended up doing I think a baseball Dungeons and Dragons too. So that's why I'm done. We can't come up with an idea and sit on it because then it just goes away. But we could play what would be fun? This would be a fun one. What if we played a Tecmo Bowl? Or whatever that robot football game was that was.
Oh yeah, I'll play any old school video game with you.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Definitely do that. Yeah, well, I have a Switch. We could do Tecmo Bowl.
I have a Switch too.
There we go. And Bogman, do you have a Switch?
Someone will send me one. So
yeah, everyone just sends Bogman things for sure. Yeah.
Well, I just play Animal Crossing all day, pretty much. Even when my kids aren't around anymore, I just play. It's my therapy. I'm just on the island and I fish. And
does my kid need that?
I craft things. What's that?
Does my kid need that game? We don't have
Animal Crossing is possibly the most all-consuming, most fantastic thing ever. Let me tell you something. My kids
all-consuming. Maybe kids don't need it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No. Let me tell you something. My kids have learned more from Animal Crossing than the last 2 months of being homeschooled because Animal Crossing, you have to dig up fossils, and when you bring them to the museum, they teach you about the dinosaurs. And then every time you catch a fish, you bring them and they tell you about them. You learn about the economy. You catch things, you build things, you sell them off, you earn money. You have a bank account in order to go from a tent to a house, and then you start expanding the house. So you have to take out a loan, and you learn about interest. They even learned the stock market. There's a pig every Sunday morning who sells you turnips, but she's only there for 3 hours at the farmer's market. And you got to go see her. And then during the week, you got to figure out how much of the turnips. You go back and forth between this, and you got to sell the turnips high. Otherwise, they rot and they spoil.
This game is it's like parenting brought to you by Nintendo.
It sounds like Second Life for children.
It's amazing. I think it's more like in that, what was it? It's the big game. What do you call it? Not Fortnite. The other one everybody always plays. The
Call of Duty Warzone.
No, the kids. The kids always play the thing with the block
Sims?
figures. Like
Roblox.
No,
oh, Minecraft.
No, Minecraft. I couldn't think of what it is. Right? It's kind of like that, but way lower key. Right? Like it's just more fun, and it's more whimsical, and you can play with your friends, and your friends can come over to your island, and you can give them stuff that they don't have. And
so what you're saying is like there's less of a threat of a 40-year-old getting on there and Chris D'Elia in them and trying to get them into your van or something.
There's zero chance because you have to friend your actual friend first before they can come to your island.
I'm just making sure. There's less of a
Chris D'Elia's not coming to your island.
There's less pedophilia in Animal Crossing.
There's
my God.
Yeah, fairly less. Yes, that is true. But it's great. Like I said, it teaches them about the economy. It teaches about the environment. It teaches about there's little tasks and things you have to do.
Does it teach them about fantasy football or wide receiver?
No, but let's do that. All right, no, whatever. But yes, buy it for your son. He's got a birthday coming up, by the way.
He actually, you know what? My daughter and my wife share a birthday less than 2 weeks from now, and then he is like 5 weeks from now. So, and he'll be 8.
Yeah, get it now because it's hard to get. Probably
got that birthday gauntlet.
Yeah, go. Yeah, birthday gauntlet. All right. Let's start with some of these wide receiver props here, and these are straight off of FanDuel. So we'll see if Welsh can get that right this week. So over on everything already for Bogman. Let's start with some of the big name wide receivers, some of the first rounder guys, and let's start with Davante Adams. So everybody loves Davante Adams, but it's so funny to me that everybody wants to focus on all the negatives of every single player except Davante Adams, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's a weird Packer Nation Aaron Rodgers thing, but there are some downsides to Davante Adams. Like
Devin Funchess, Joe. Remember Devin Funchess?
Well, but he's missed games in several of the last few years. I know he had 2 years ago an incredibly consistent, great season, but Aaron Rodgers is in like a 5,000-yard passer at this stage of his career. Let's be honest. But Davante Adams, the number is 1,200.5, right on the button. So, Bogman, let's start with you here. 1,200.5 for Davante Adams. You're going to go over that because that's basically 2 years ago when he had his fantastic season. I'm using air quotes. It was fantastic, but I just like doing air quotes. So it's right at that mark, basically. So you're going to go over under because basically he has to stay healthy for 16 games, I think, to hit this.
Yeah, he probably does. But also, this is we've seen Aaron Rodgers when he gets a fire lit under him. And them not taking him any wideouts to help Davante.
I've never seen that. His face looks exactly the same every time.
I know. Well, it doesn't really have to be in his face. You can see it on the field. But I think Adams I think he goes nuts this year with Aaron Rodgers going nuts. So
you're going to go over?
Yeah, I'm going to go over on that. And it also, because Alan Lazard is the 2 and Devin Funchess is mixed in there, and then a bunch of rookie tight ends. I mean, I like Jay Sternberger, but he only played limited amount last year. I think Adams is just going to get an insane amount of targets, so I think I have to go over that.
Fun fact about Davante Adams, he has only had a 1,000-yard season once in his 6 years.
I know.
Isn't that wild? Like when you think about Davante,
and the community, oh my God, they're like throwing parades for him, and I like him. I get it, but oh my God, it's like why is he impervious to criticism? It's hysterical to me.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is weird. He's only played 16 games twice, and he didn't even start 16 in 2 seasons of his 6, and he's going into his 28-year season, 28 years old. I don't like this.
Stress ball. That's what I'm doing.
I don't like this one because it's a really high number and he absolutely could take it. But this dude has okay. Here's a different way to say everything I was saying. He has never in his career started 16 games ever in his career in a season. Has he started 16 games? 15 was the max. So, you know what? I'm going to go under. I think the numbers are there. I think he could hit it, but it's just such a high number. It's or the pass. You know what I mean? Like if you're passing on it and come back to this again, but come back to how we play this game. Think about 1,000 of your real buckaroos, not that Animal Crossing money, real money on the line.
Bells, by the way, it's not much. It's actually bells, not dollars.
All right. I'm just 1,000 cucumbers or whatever the hell you sell in that game. I'm not going to put that 1,200 on Davante Adams, even though I think he could do it. I'm going to go under because it's I don't know. It doesn't seem likely.
I'm going under for everything that you just pointed out. And it's not that I don't like Davante Adams, but it's just hysterical to me. And that like people want to take him over Julio Jones. And I'm like, well, Julio Jones is always hurt. I was like, yeah, but you know what? Julio Jones is still putting up 1,400 yards every year. And somehow Julio Jones is playing more games. And yeah, maybe he gets hurt in games and comes out, but he plays through more injuries than Adams has. Oh, it's so frustrating. Let's go to Hopkins because I think I'm going to be frustrated on this one too. The number here for him, new team for DeAndre Hopkins, but I mean, let's be honest, he's still all world. 11-24.5. That is the over-under number. Welsh, we'll start with you on this one. 11-24.5. DeAndre Hopkins, over-under or stay away.
I love this one. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be an absolute beast in Arizona. The dude has only had 2 under 1,000 yard seasons twice in his career. And that's going to be 5 of the last 6 seasons. He has hit the over on this in Houston. So a pass-heavy offense under Kingsbury with Kyler Murray. I know like Fitzgerald is actually going to have more shares than people give him credit for, but I'm very, very much and feel very good about slapping the over on this.
I do like that people would knock Hopkins because they have Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald. And those are good wide receivers. But when you have DeAndre Hopkins, he gets the ball more than anyone, and he will continue that this season. And Kingsbury is going to throw the ball a ton Murray will be throwing it, but he's going to call a bunch of pass plays like he always does. They're going to go a lot of 4 wide, but Hopkins still going to be the leader in the clubhouse by a lot unless he gets hurt. So give me Hopkins in the over on that.
3 for 3. Let's do it. Over. I mean, I just don't get it. Like going into the season, I would rather have Hopkins than Adams, and I don't have a hesitation on that. I have 0 hesitation. RPV proves that out too because of the consistency over the last 3 years of the two. When you compare the two, it's a no-brainer.
I actually agree with that, and it's funny because we've had a lot of conversations with different people that have kind of said, well, there's 2 wideouts you take in the first round. It's Michael Thomas, and then Davante Adams gets thrown into that. He has all the talent in the world, and there's this floor that Adams has, but there's so much risk. I'm a Hopkins over Adams for this year guy, but
100%.
I want to look up real quick before we move on.
I'm a Julio, and we're going to do him next here. I'm a Julio guy too over Adams.
So real quick on the Fantasy Pros ranks, I just want to drop this here. That's standard. Hold on. Their consensus rankers for wideouts has Michael Thomas at 1, Adams at 2, Hopkins at 5, with Julio and Tyreek Hill over him. I don't know, man. I think Hopkins is 2 or 3 on the board here, and I think that is pretty criminally low just for a new
Hopkins is 3 for me, but Davante Adams is 2 for me.
Yeah.
Well, Julio's 2 for me, so let's go to Julio here. 1349.5. Now, look, I'll start with this one. This is a tough one for me because I do love me some Julio Jones. I think this number is basically right there, so I would probably stay away from it. I think it's going to come down a little bit, but I think there's room for the under on this one, because I do think Calvin Ridley is going to take a step up. When you look at the numbers after Sanu left last year and Hooper is gone, so whether or not you think Hayden Hurst is going to step in and just be Austin Hooper, that's fine and dandy, but I don't think that's going to exactly be the case. I think you're going to see the emergence of Calvin Ridley, just like last year was the emergence of Godwin. That was the guy kept driving in on every show. It's going to be Calvin Ridley for the next 2.5 months. Buckle up, Buckaroos, because that's what it's going to be. And for me, I think it's going to hurt Julio just a little bit. So I think he's going to go just underneath this number, but it's probably close enough to just stay away. Boggs, we'll go to you next with this one. Julio Jones, 1349.5.
I'm going to go over again. We're at the top end here of these guys. So a lot of them I do have faith in. And, when you take out a big target like Austin Hooper, I just think Julio and Calvin Ridley going to get fed a little bit more. I know that a lot of people are in on Hayden Hurst. I'm lukewarm on Hayden Hurst so far. I think if he could have worked in Baltimore, he would have, and he just hasn't so far. Maybe change of scenery is going to be great for him. But I think that these wide receivers get targeted even more. So I'm going to go with the over on Julio as well.
Interesting. We had Brandon Funston on the In This League Fantasy Football podcast last week for a Dynasty show. So I know that could be weird for everybody. But in it, we were talking about Funston's big board, and he had Julio at 6 overall. We were like, wow, everybody's in Julio. Remember the last time Julio didn't hit this over? 2013. From 14 to last year, he has gone over on this number every single one of those years.
And that's dragging that foot around. The foot that everyone's worried about. He's hit the over for the last.
Look at this, dude.
5 seasons. So
2004. This is 6 seasons. 2014, he played 15 games. 16, he played 14 games, and last year he played 15. And I just told you 6 straight seasons where he's hit the over on this. I would actually lean with Joe that I'd probably want to stay away from this, but if I had to choose the over or the under, I would take the over on this. Julio, I feel way more confident about Julio hitting the over than I do Davante Adams.
All right, let's do Michael Thomas here. The number is 1404.5, coming down from last year's astronomical 17, which is, a lot. So 1404.5 seems very achievable. I think, again, that's kind of spot on to me. I think that's the number you bid on. And I think him and Julio are 1 and 2, and they're close. Hopkins is still my 3, and Adams is my 4. Again, just based off quarterback play too. But what do you think about this number, Welsh, of Michael Thomas, 1404.5? Do you think that's kind of right on with your expectations, or do you think it could put up another massive Antonio Brown-esque 15+ number?
Yeah, I would put him in the 1,500-yard range. So
you're going over. That's a way over.
I don't love all of these really, really high ones. If I'm putting money down on some of these prop bets for the season, it's probably where I'm trying to stay away from. But if there is a dude that I would feel confident about, it's about Michael Thomas, because look at this, 185 targets last year. He has been targeted over 145 times for the last 3 years each. So, that's just going to get us up there. He's also a crazy high catch volume guy. Davante Adams sits in the 60 to 65% catch percentage each year. Michael Thomas, 80% last year, 85% the year before that, and 69.8% the year before that. So you get high targets, you get high catch percentage, you got a high pace passing offense. I'm going to go over on Michael Thomas, and I'll feel better about it than probably anybody except for Hopkins.
Michael Thomas has improved in catches and yards every year in the league. So I don't think he can go over 149 catches or 1,700 yards this year. But, this is his 5th year in the league now. He's hitting his peak. He's hitting his stride. And if Drew Brees breaks his hand this year, they go to Jameis instead of Teddy Bridgewater. Right. So, I'm all over this Michael Thomas number. This is, like the Welsh said, this is my most confident one out of all of them.
Yeah, I think it's an over too, man. It feels like it. I think 1404 is a good bid, but it just feels like over. That's a 300-yard difference year over year. I don't know, man. It seems like a big drop off. It's not impossible, but it just seems like nobody seems to outwork Michael Thomas. He just seems to be that kind of a dude, and he takes it so seriously. And that's why I think he's had that success where, like you pointed out, Boggs, every year he just gets better and better. All right, this guy's not in the same caliber, but I want to throw this one in before the break because I think it's kind of a lightning rod one. Juju Smith-Schuster. The number is 1,099.5. That's a pretty solid number there, Boggs. Let's go to you, Mr. Steeler. 1,099.5. Is Juju going over that number?
I'm not betting that number. I can tell you that much right
that's
now.
Fine. Well, let's say Then
is this the biggest stay away of all of them for you?
Yeah, it is, and it's not because I don't believe in Juju. It's because I believe in the Steelers defense. The Steelers defense is really, really good this year.
I agree.
I think they're gonna try to play hard-nosed defense and run the ball a lot, especially with Ben coming off of his arm injury now. The reports for Ben have all been positive. He says he's throwing it with more ease than he's had in years. I still think Juju is going to be a big time contributor, but as far as this number goes, I'm just not going to mess with it at all because I think the Steelers are going to run the crap out of the ball this year. So,
you say that though, and then you're also so down on James Conner, and if they're going to run the ever living crap out of the ball, is it? You just think it's going to be a 3-headed
monster? It could be by committee.
49ers?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly. I think Benny Snell is going to get a lot of carries, and Anthony McFarland, I think, is going to get mixed in more as the year goes on. And Samuels is still there, so they still have all those dudes. So
Snell and McFarland are two guys that I'm going to have a lot of shares of in Scott Fishbowl. I'm targeting them this year. Those two guys. I'm trying to get one or both of them. Because I did the same thing a couple years ago where Le'Veon Bell was holding out and I took Connor.
Yeah.
and I was okay.
Out.
Well, it works out because we always know if something happens to whoever the number one is there, it's going to be somebody else, and there's going to be enough as long as Roethlisberger's playing quarterback. All right, we're going to hit a break. When we come back, we're going to lightning round some of these props of wide receiver totals for receiving yards for the rookie class and see what everybody thinks of these. So stick around. More Black Book coming at you right after this. All right, let's wide receiver prop some rookies for you. And let's start with the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Reagor. I am Reagor the Terrible. I shall. This is very Dungeons and Dragons. I think Jalen Reagor should be sort of like, he's definitely in that game, right? Like if we do NFL.
Well, Reagor is one of the names from Game of Thrones. So I think that's
what character was that?
It was one of Daenerys, cousins or something.
Look at the nerd come out in Bogman. But I love
Rhaegar, I think, not Reagor.
Love listening to Bogman talk about Game of Thrones because I can see the disdain of like as the words come out of his mouth. I know he's like, oh God,
I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, you don't want to talk about it, but he knows everything. He knows everything.
Yeah, like I'm a big Game of Thrones nerd too. That's a whole other podcast. We do that. All right, so the number on Jalen Reagor is 700.5. Now that seems very attainable, especially when you consider Deshaun Jackson is 178 years old, and then you understand that Alshon Jeffrey healthy is like the Yeti. It just doesn't exist, right? Not the Yeti microphone.
Dallas
by the way,
Goedert get absolutely side punched.
I didn't see the footage yet.
Oh my God! The dude,
he just
boom, just knocked his ass down.
I don't know if you saw my tweet though. I said that does count as a target and a reception though.
Yeah, that was a good tweet.
In case you're keeping score. So with all these guys over here at the Eagles, I don't know, 700.5. That doesn't seem Welsh. That seems kind of reasonable, doesn't it? Like I almost feel like they're kind of asking me to go over, but I don't know. It's tough on rookies.
My only problem is like the Eagles are the 49ers running back of last year type of situation where it's just you can't pinpoint a single one of those running back. Like this year, it's a little bit easier with Mostert, but still, it's more dicey than people think. I don't know.
Well, it's always dicey with a guy like Mostert who was on 5 different teams in 3 years. Like, enough with that. Like,
but with the Eagles,
I'm still Mostert.
You've got 2 tight ends that could be the top 2 targets. You've got Alshon Jeffrey. You've got Deshaun Jackson, who people believe is going to be the leader of the pack. I think there are way too many mouths to feed there that I would even remotely consider taking this one. So I would punch the under.
Yeah, not only that, the Welsh, but also, there's a bunch of the whole reason we're not big on many rookies this season in particular is because COVID has restricted meeting up with your teammates and getting practice time in and all that stuff. And we don't know what that's going to look like leading up to the beginning of the season, especially now with a bunch of outbreaks happening in different states and, a bunch of these facilities getting shut down and rescrubbed and all that stuff. So I'm just worried about his practice time and his rapport with Carson Wentz. I think if he does boom, it'll be later in the year. So I'm not going to mess with a season number for Reagor, kind of whatever it's put out.
All right, let's try Denzel. By the way, I think it's going to end up being a necessity over because this is so little that I think of Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey. So it might be a little bit of a hot take there. And it's not because like I am all in here, but I do have a lot of respect for Carson Wentz more than some other people do. Because when you dig deeper into those numbers with him, they're really good. They're just really good. And I think he just needs somebody who's healthy and on the field. And if this guy's healthy and on the field, you're right in everything that you said. It's a ton of sense and absolutely. But I just think there's going to be a need and somebody's going to have to catch the football. Denzel Mims, the number is 609.5 for him. Now, this is one I run away from because I have no confidence in Adam Gase, and I don't have much confidence in Darnold yet either. I don't know what he is. Bogman, do you know what they are? Because this is a hard pass for me.
Look, I'm coming around on Brashad Perriman a little bit in the Jets offense. So I think I'm going to sink Denzel Mims a little bit. Well, listen to this stat, and I looked this up.
I get it. I get it.
This stat is the one that is getting to me, is that 48% of balls thrown to Brashad Perriman last season were uncatchable. And he still had a pretty good season. So I think if you get him a little more accuracy with a guy like Sam Darnold, maybe he establishes himself a little bit quicker. We know Crowder is the one there. So I'm going to lay off betting Mims and most rookies this year anyway. So I'm not taking that one.
Well, how about you? 609.5.
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable number, and I'm tempted to take the over just because I think he could play a bigger role. And Sam Darnold, I think he had 3,000 yards through only 13 games last year. So, there is some volume there. Gase is going to want to throw the ball, but I don't know. I mean, I'm probably going to stay away. Again, gun to my head, I'll actually take the over on this because I think Mims is going to be a little bit better than we expect. But this is the rookie thing. I mean, there's very, very little rookies that I feel confident about. So my best answer that I can give is this is a really, really big hard pass. But I would take the over if forced.
All right, let's move on to the next one here. Now, this one I think has opportunity because last year in this offense, Randall Cobb had 800 receiving yards, and CeeDee Lamb, I think, is more talented than Randall Cobb. God bless him. He is one of the, we are a fan of his on the show. Welsh is a huge Cobb sucker. Everybody knows that.
I call him a Cobb sucker every day. Every JoJo.
CeeDee Lamb, 749.5. That seems really reasonable. I'm going to go over on this one. And I just think that it's just going to be impossible to stop him. There's just too many other guys out there. And you know what? If Amari Cooper or Gallup goes down, he blows this number away, in my opinion. So I know all the trappings of rookie wideouts are there, and I am all about the trappings of them and overpaying for them. 749.5 sounds pretty good to me. Welsh, we'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, I mean, his girlfriend ain't going to stop him if his mom's around too. So I'm my favorite of all of them.
Yeah, that was a good moment.
I don't like it, and I know. I think I predict both of you are going to. I think Bogman's going to take the over because he likes Lamb, and there's arguments you can make about the tight end position opening up a little bit, but Cooper and Gallup, they're going to demand. Zeke is going to get his. It'll be interesting to see what they might try to also develop outside in the backup running game. That I think CeeDee Lamb is going to be a dude, but I just don't particularly love him getting like a 800 marker as a third wideout and the fourth option in the Dallas Cowboys offense. Cause I think Michael Gallup takes a big step this year. I know they're going to throw a whole bunch, but take everything away from me, take away all of this extra practice time. I don't like it. I'm going to hit the under, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would not bet this. I'll say that. And if I do bet it, it's going to be a low amount. So if I'm looking for like some entertainment value, I'd throw whatever, $25, $50 on this, to see if he hits the over, because I do think he will, but there's no chance I put my hard-earned cash, a lot of my hard-earned cash, on any rookie wideout hitting a number.
All right, let's move on to the next one here. Last one, then we'll move on from this. Jerry Jeudy, the number is 774.5 for him, Bog. So is this another one where you don't think you can get it?
This is the one I do bet. That's the one I bet. Even with Drew Lock, and even just saying I probably don't want to bet any rookies. I am so supremely confident in Jerry Jeudy becoming the one of the top two options. I mean, look, he fits perfectly with Courtland Sutton because Sutton doesn't need a lot of catches to produce. So exactly. I think that Jeudy is going to be that high target guy very, very quickly for the Broncos. So I would probably take that one, but still I wouldn't put much more on that than I would on CeeDee Lamb.
This is the one that I instantly was like, I'm going to hit the over. I'm a little bit worried because Melvin Gordon, though, he's going to take some out of the passing game. Phillip Lindsay is one of those running backs. I feel like there's going to be a trend this year of these very versatile backup running backs that could start playing slot roles for teams that I think a guy like Phillip Lindsay could play in the slot, even though I know they got KJ Hamler. But at the end of the day, I'm just not going to bet against Jerry Jeudy. He's just of all of these rookies, you're looking for the intangibles, and he is probably the best route runner there. It's almost like a Deebo Samuel from last year. He's just going to create situations for himself, and he's going to be one of the main options. So yeah, I'm gonna pound the over on this. I think he could touch 1,000, to be honest with you. If Drew Lock isn't an absolute bomb out of a prospect and of a quarterback this year, I think Jeudy could touch 1,000. So give me the over.
I'm over too, because Melvin Gordon's going to get hurt. He always does. So, I want to rain on everyone's parade. But again, there's just facts of life here. And that's just one of them. Sorry. It's just, this happens. It happens a lot. So he's going to miss a couple games. But Joe's
going to have a bench filled with Phillip Lindsay, Benny Snell, and Anthony McFarland.
Scott Fishbowl, 100%, because everybody wants to go take all the sexy this and that. Like, nope. I'm going to take all these backup guys. I'm going to make headway with that because those rosters are so huge, that you have to, make sure you get the guys you have there. And you might as well
take all this information, the Welsh, for your Scott Fish.
I was about to say, Joe, you're going to have to give me like a tutor session through, just because this is my first year in the Scott Fish Bowl, and I didn't get the league I requested or the pick I got. I'm in. I requested like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because that's what I grew up with, and I think I got thrown into like Mattel or like dolls or something. So something horrible, but I'll have to actually
I'm in G.I. Joe. I requested G.I. Joe. I got G.I. Joe.
Oh, look at you.
I think I'm the third pick. I think that's where I'm
at. We'll have to do a little strategy session just to so I'm up on all of the quirks.
Because it starts after July 4th, right? Isn't the 6th?
I didn't even know that my
you know what
was up.
Don't count on Joe for any start times, because I asked him this week, I'm like, when does our draft start? He said, I don't think that we have a date set yet. And then it's today. It started today.
It's today.
Yeah.
Well, you were getting the same email as I was, so I thought you get the email. I thought you knew. You thought you saw it.
No, I saw that it was starting today, but it was after I asked you. And it was like 5 hours after I asked you. I was like, when's this draft again? And you're like, I don't think we've set a date yet. And then boom, it's today. So
it's today. So there you go. But now we're underway. We got CMC. I mean, we're fine. I mean, we knew we were picking, so it wasn't like when the draft started. We're gonna have like 3 days before we pick again. It's a 32-team league, for God's sake. So like,
look, it didn't affect us majorly. All I'm saying is, don't trust Joe with draft.
You can trust me. You can trust
Joe,
me.
I gotta tell you,
so many emails flying back and forth.
There is nothing. I hate the double player thing. Bogman has been talking about it on all the podcasts. I cannot get over how much I hate the double.
I don't like it either. But Welsh is averse to anything. What? You're changing stuff?
No,
I don't like it.
I like fun. I'm down for Superflex. I'm down for I think I'm down for everything.
It's basically just a 16-team league. I think you're overthinking it. It's a 16-team league.
Yeah, but no, I don't think he is. I think Mike overthought it when he made it. You should just done 2 16 team leagues, which is fine. Look, I don't care. To me, it's whatever. I don't.
This is the Yahoo Sports of leagues. They're like, let's just make 2 Otanis, and that's what they. I hate that. I don't like 2 of the same human being because they don't exist. So that's the thing that I don't like.
I love that song, 2 Otanis. That's one of my favorite songs from the 90s. I think it was the Wallflowers.
2 Otanis, 1 pick.
Yeah, I thought it was 2 Otanis was the Spin Doctors, right? It was right after 2 Princes. It was 2 Otanis.
1, 2 Otanis kneel before you. One's a pitcher, another one here like a batter. It's in his hands
secret,
now.
Secret thing to throw to you, Joe.
Because he's a pitcher, but sometimes he likes to hit it through you.
Wow, yeah, I know. I just can't get in there. But I was gonna say, fun fact with the Wallflowers, because you mentioned them. That was I think it was the first CD I ever bought. It wasn't the first thing I owned. First thing I ever owned actually was a cassette, which makes me feel old. And it was MC Hammer when I moved to California. When I moved to Arizona. This is my not this means anything to anybody. When I moved from California to Arizona in the early 90s, my mom and I drove a CRX. So if you know what a CRX is, from California to Arizona, and I had 1 cassette tape in my Sony cassette, man, and it was MC Hammer, and I just rewound, and then my first CD ever that I recall was the Wallflowers. So
that's a good CD.
License to Ill was my first cassette. So Beastie Boys.
Okay,
my first cassette, man. I have to think about that one.
I think my second cassette was the Presidents of the United States of America.
Millions of peaches for me.
And Lump was a big song as well. And then my third was Offspring's Bash. So
there you go.
And that's the last thing that he's ever bought. Speaking of which, the 2-minute drill, speaking of nothing really, it starts right now. All right, so in case you missed it, and I'm sure you didn't, but whatever. The NFL quarterbacks as women came out. Somebody got bored and decided to make every single NFL quarterback as a woman. And basically they did that whole face app thing, whatever, and converted them over. And we're going to show them here. This is why you're watching the video here as well as the audio of the podcast. I can see them and everyone else can too. So I wanted to scroll through some of these and see if you had any takes on them, because as far as like who you're asking to prom, I mean, you got to be asking Jimmy G. I mean, I know he's a handsome man, but my goodness, as a woman,
Jimmy G's a smoke show. Like, we've all had a Jared Goff. Wait, I just want to point this out. We've all had a Jared Goff in our world, but Jimmy G is what you're looking for.
I want you to do this, Welsh. I want you to scroll down to Sam Darnold and tell me that it doesn't look like they just stuck a wig on Sam Darnold's head. That's all they did. He looks the exact same with just a wig. Everyone else's whole body changed.
You know what he looks like?
Face changed.
Remember when the Wayans brothers did that White Chicks movie? He almost looks like one of those.
And then mixed in the Goonies.
Gardner Minshew
wasn't the quarterback. If he wasn't the quarterback of the Jets, dude. Oh, Roethlisberger. Look, my favorite picture. I put in the group me room the other day, the Welsh, and I know you saw it. And I can't stop laughing at it. It's a picture of Amy Schumer with no makeup, and it just says Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, I will tell you,
it is the funniest thing ever.
The absolute smoke shows is Patrick Mahomes. Is Lady Patrick Mahomes.
See, I still
and his voice probably works as the lady better as well.
Kyler Murray's not bad either. I was gonna say, like, he might be on the if Jimmy turned you down for prom. I think it's Kyler Murray there.
Joe Burrow sold me weed in high school. I'm pretty sure. Go look at Joe Burrow.
I'm pretty sure
it
Kyler
looks like
Murray
a
was
mugshot.
in one of those like movies with like He Got Game or something. Like she
I'm
looks like
telling
that.
you,
Like,
I have definitely been drunk at a bar and met up with a Jared Goff though. But I'm seeing where is Joe Burrow?
There. Right underneath Roethlisberger.
Ooh, Joe Burrow looks like Joe had a rough night and then might have got arrested for.
Joe Burrow looks like a Waffle House waitress that just wants to go home and do some math.
By the way, Ryan Tannehill, I'm pretty sure, is the head of women's studies at Barnard College or somewhere like that. Like,
Ryan Tannehill, you marry Ryan Tannehill. You marry Ryan Tannehill. You take Tannehill to mom. Pa.
Well, the Lamar Jackson one is there's a couple that are not flattering, like and of course the least flattering is Aaron Rodgers. I mean, talk about emo Aaron Rodgers right here.
Where is Aaron Rodgers?
My goodness. It's Aaron Rodgers is in that whole grouping with
look at
no. I don't like this at all. I tell you what, go and look at the one with the college coaches because they did that as well. I don't like it. It disturbs me.
Yeah, but you're upset. I see the coaches one. I saw the Andy Reid one. That's kind of weird. I mean, that's the thing. It's like the bonus things and stuff like that. But the actual doing all the quarterbacks there was pretty funny.
These are terrifying. These are just absolutely terrifying.
They are. But the Aaron Rodgers one, there it is. There's the Aaron Rodgers one right there on the left there. That is.
Oh, God.
Yeah. There's like, hey, guys, what time you guys want to hang out after school? Oh, you're not hanging out after school today? Okay, cool. I mean, yeah, I'm stupid. Sorry. I don't know why I asked that. Like, it's just not
charger for my Android.
I'm surprised you like Patrick Mahomes so much. I didn't know that.
Matt Stafford, pretty good right there too.
Where's the Matt Stafford?
Matt Stafford, actually, I gotta tell you this, Bogman. Matt Stafford looks like a friend of ours' wife.
I'm not sure which one. You're gonna have to remind me afterwards. So,
all right, it's someone that doesn't live in this state anymore that recently moved to a different state.
Okay.
Yeah, I know the other one. Trubisky was the other one.
Patrick Mahomes
Trubisky was the other one, by the way. Go up in that same thing with Rodgers. Trubisky was also another one that I would ask to prom for sure. But yeah, there it is, right there, right underneath the Stafford, right there.
Not bad.
Oh yeah.
Jimmy G breaks your heart. You pine over Patrick Mahomes, and you end up, you
marry Ryan
and you marry Ben Roethlisberger. That's the way
what was Brady? Brady wasn't good either. He's not good. Brady and Breeze. Breeze looks like Melissa Etheridge after a concert.
They could have used any other picture for Joe Burrow. I don't think Joe Burrow is going to make a pretty lady, regardless. But they literally could have used any other picture, and it would have been better.
Look at Matt Ryan's head. Longest head I've ever seen.
Oh goodness!
Like
so
Bert Nuri.
Seriously, look at Drew Brees in the corner there. Doesn't it look like Melissa Etheridge? I'm pretty sure. Like he's the only one who will walk across the fire for you.
All they did with Brady was put longer hair on him. That's all they did. He's already a pretty boy.
Yeah, that's what happens. The pretty boys get prettier. I mean, I think we've realized that, which is, I mean, maybe we should do that. Maybe somebody should face up the three of us as women. I'm sure that's a good idea. Dennis Roy's listening right now, and he's already working on it. So in the meantime, we want to thank everybody for listening today. I want to thank our guest, Nate Hamilton, for joining us. Again, you can follow him at DominateFF. The FF stands for Frickin' Punches. If he's taking a break from camping, if he's camping right now, you can't talk him on Twitter, but you can talk to him when he comes back from camping. You can talk to us on Twitter, though, at Bogman Sports, at Is It The Welsh, and at Joe Pizapia 17. Check out all the great content at inthisleague.com, including the ITL Army over on Patreon. Check that out. And go get your Fantasy Black Book 2020 on Amazon. The iTunes version is up as well this week, in case you want to save some trees. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Bogman and Welsh, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Bye.